There is a straight up ridiculous amount of fantastic anime airing this season. However, one of the best is arguably being overshadowed by the more mainstream titles, which means that you're probably overlooking it. The anime I'm talking about is, of course, the Faraway Paladin. Very minor spoilers ahead for episodes 1 and 2. Now, just in case you don't know, allow me to give you a brief rundown of the story thus far. To begin with, our protagonist dies and wakes up in the body of a newborn child. That's right, the Faraway Paladin is an Isekai, yet for some reason, which I'll never understand, they chose not to advertise that in the title or description. Anyways, Will wakes up in the body of a child to find that he is being raised by 3 undead creatures. There's Mary the Mummy, who teaches him practical skills, Blood the Skeleton, who teaches him how to hunt and fight, and then we have Augustus the Spectre, who oversees his schooling in magic. The first 2 episodes revolved around Will's relationship with these undead, and the 3rd episode is set up to be the big turning point where he has to make a decision which will define the man that he is to become. As you can tell, the story in and of itself isn't anything new or crazy, but the relatability to the protagonist and the amazingly well-written characters is what makes this anime so special.
But Unseen, what if I watch the first 2 episodes and don't like any of these characters?
Well, first off, that makes you a sociopath, and secondly, it's nearly impossible not to relate to the main character, at least to some degree. You see, Will has spent his entire childhood learning and training every single day, causing him to fear the idea of possibly disappointing his foster parents. Now, it may not have been swordsmanship or magic, but I think most of us have felt the pressure of not wanting to disappoint our peers. Maybe you struggled to fit in with your friends and worried about whether or not you wore the right clothes or said the right things. Maybe it was simply struggling to get good enough grades to appease your parents. Though for me personally, it was sports. There was one sport in particular that I was really good at, but I quickly grew to hate it. However, I kept playing said sport for years on end and almost went to college for it, all because I didn't want to disappoint my parents. Then how about this? Have you ever been betrayed by a friend? Because this is something Will has to deal with as well. Maybe a close friend started talking to that girl you liked, or maybe they didn't invite you to a party. Honestly, both of these examples are hitting pretty close to home to me. The point is that it sucks so much, but this is something that most of us will have to go through at some point in our life. And because of this, I could definitely feel the pain written on Will's face as he experienced a friend's betrayal. As of writing this, it hasn't aired yet, but in episode 3, Will is going to be forced to make a decision that will play a massive part in determining his future. How many of you have had to do that? I mean, if you've graduated high school, then you've definitely had to. I remember going to college with absolutely no idea what it was I was gonna do for the rest of my life. I mean, how was I supposed to know? I was just an 18-year-old kid who spent all his free time on video games, anime, or my girlfriend. Now, I'm sure some of you are still in high school, but that just means that you'll have to make that important decision soon enough. It's these 3 highly relatable situations that will pull you in and give you a direct link to Will's emotions. Though even outside of the main character, there are still so many reasons that you will enjoy this story. You see, the Faraway Paladin doesn't start off with a tragic backstory or a happy-go-lucky hero like most isekai. Take Saga of Tanya the Evil, Konosuba, and Slime for example. These are all fantastic stories, but they all lack realism, and this makes all the characters feel just like what they are. Fiction. However, the Faraway Paladin, in contrast to all this, is simply about a guy being reborn into a fantasy world and trying to live his best life. It's much easier to watch this anime and be like, what would I do in that situation? Or yeah, that was definitely the best choice he could make. And this just makes it so much easier to fully immerse yourself into the story. Then, unlike other isekai, the Faraway Paladin doesn't throw a large amount of dialogue or exposition at us. It instead naturally shows us the world through Will's perspective, via his childhood experiences. It's due to this one-sided, slow storytelling, which reminds me a lot of Grimgar, that allows us to quickly make a connection to each of the characters. It's obvious that Mary is the loving mother figure who is willing to sacrifice herself for Will's needs. Blood is the strong father figure who looks forward to the day that he will lose a duel to his son. Then Augustus is like that wacky uncle you only see once a year who seems to adore you one minute, then kind of forgets you exist or hates you the next. Then it's through these connections that our our very own curiosity pulls us deeper and deeper into the story through the many unanswered questions. I mean, why is Will the only human we've seen thus far? Why does Mary disappear for hours at a time, only to reappear holding freshly baked bread, which she refuses to explain how she acquired? Why is Augustus so hard on Will and sometimes even seems to hate him? And arguably most importantly, how did Blood find and acquire baby Will? You see, the beauty of this anime is that it doesn't require a grand goal of becoming the hero and defeating the Demon King, because by the end of episode 2, you'll already be completely invested in the characters. That being said though, I do fully expect episodes 3 and 4 to introduce a more serious plotline. Now, I have no real evidence, but I feel like it's going to be something on the darker side revolving around Mary, Blood, and Augustus. Then from what we've seen so far, we know that the deities of this world directly interact with the living, and well, undead for that matter. This is why I'm betting that Mary, Blood, and Augustus were forced to form an evil contract of some sort with the god of death in exchange for being reborn as undead. I wouldn't be surprised one bit if Blood has been killing human travelers for hundreds of years or something along those lines, and him taking Will in was a way to appease his own guilt. Maybe Augustus, in his vast search for knowledge, has been using Will in some kind of dark experiment without him knowing. My only issue with this kind of theory is that I can't think of anything dark or evil that Mary could be doing. It just doesn't seem like it would fit her character. But then at the same time, that would only make the twist hit that much harder. If you're somehow still not sold on this anime yet, allow me to describe it like this. It's essentially jobless reincarnation's beginning, excluding all the sexual things, with Grimgar's slow-paced, character-driven storytelling, hence why I'm enjoying it so much. Now at this point, it's hard to determine where the Faraway Paladin falls on the power scale between these two anime, but I would say it's probably favoring the stronger side of that equation. Then the best part of this entire video is that only 2 episodes have aired, which means that the story could take a drastic left turn, rendering this entire video useless and outdated. Let's all just cross our fingers and hope that that doesn't happen. So, this is me checking back in after episode 3 to confirm that I was indeed somewhat correct with my theory, while also being somewhat wrong at the same time. I will say, however, that episode 3 did introduce a more focused and serious plotline for those of you who may find the first 2 episodes to be a little slow for your liking. The Faraway Paladin is just definitely one of those anime that works really well with the old 3-episode rule. Also, did you know that 94 different Isekai anime was created between the year 2000 and April of 2021? That's just a random fact and has nothing to do with the video I made compiling all that information. If you enjoyed this video, then smash that subscribe button and then click on one of these videos to watch next.